dense forest clearing, surrounded by tall trees on all sides. In the middle of the clearing, we find sick Bandot, a shy and nervous young man. He is reciting his wedding vows, practicing out loud, hoping to get them just right.
I, Victor, take you, Victoria.
Suddenly, the silence is broken by a loud groan from the ground. While cut to a shot of a corpse bride, slowly rising from her grave. Victor is startled, and quickly steps back in terror and confusion.
Who are you and what are you doing here?
My name is Victor and I am practicing my wedding vows. I'm getting married soon.
The corpse bride stares at Victor for a moment before a faint smile appears on her face.
It seems you are in need of a bride. I'm the corpse bride, and I'm here to take you with me to the land of the dead.
We find Shit standing at the altar with his two brides, Victoria Evergrot and corpse bride. They stand together, each waiting for Shit to choose who he would like to marry. Victoria looks at him expectantly, while the corpse bride waits patiently.
I choose.
See Victor, dressed in a tux, walking slowly through a dark, dense forest. He is practicing his wedding vows to himself, but is clearly struggling to keep them straight.
I promise to love and cherish you forever. Yeah, that's right, that's what I was supposed to say. I promise to be faithful and treat you with respect. No, wait, that's going in the wrong direction.
Victor stops walking and wipes the sweat from his face. He sits down on the ground and takes a deep breath.
I take you as my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold forever. That's it.
Victor smiles, relieved that he finally memorized his vows correctly. He removes his wedding ring from his pocket and places it on a finger-shaped stick in the ground.
I take you as my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, now and forever.
Suddenly the stick moves and groans. To Victor's surprise, it is actually a rotted human finger, belonging to a murdered girl. She arises from the ground as a zombie, and stares Victor dead in the eyes.
You took me as your lawfully wedded wife. We're officially married now.
Victor looks horrified and shocked at the zombie girl, and quickly grabs his wedding ring from her finger. He runs away as fast as he can.
Only a selfless act of love can bring Victor and the corpse bride out of eternal damnation and release them into their rightful lives. The love that the corpse bride and Victor share can only be found in the moments following eternal death, proving that true love truly does conquer all. The forest is dark and eerie as we see through Victor's pod. He's nervously mumbling over his wedding vows.
To have and to hold.
Suddenly he stops in his tracks, frozen by a blue light coming from the ground. Camera pans over to reveal Emily, the corpse bride, emerging from the earth. Her dead body is wrapped in a beautiful blue-tinged wedding dress and her ephemeral beauty is eye-popping. She slowly ascends from the ground as a swarm of maggots surround her.
My love, you have finally come for me.
Victor stares at her in shock.
What? Who are you?
Emily smiles softly and holds out her hand.
I am Emily. I have been waiting for you since I was murdered on our wedding day.
Victor's is horrified.
Murdered?
Victor and Emily are now in the land of the dead, where Victor is beginning to learn the harsh realities of living amongst the dead. Heads roll freely, eyes never seem to stay in their sockets. Victor is overwhelmed and begins to feel trapped.
This is my home now, but it doesn't have to be yours.
Victor looks to Emily, and with a newfound strength and courage, he realizes what needs to be done. He takes Emily's hand and leads her back into the woods. Victor and Emily break through the darkness of the woods and into the light of day. A ray of sunshine beams down on their faces. Victor takes Emily's lifeless hand into his and begins to recite the wedding vows they could never complete on their wedding day.
To have and to hold, from this day forward, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
As Emily stands there, lifeless, Victor's words seem to bring life to her. Her eyes open and she takes a deep breath.
My love, I can now rest.
Camera zooms out as Emily and Victor embrace in a loving embrace. True love has conquered all.
The sound of a large and bustling Victoria near a British village fills the air. Victor Van Dort, the son of a nouveau riche merchant, stands outside his family's home, ready to meet his fiancée.
Today is the day.
Victoria Everglot, daughter of a bankrupt aristocrat family, stands at her door, ready to meet her fiancé.
I'm a bit nervous, but I'm sure everything will be all right.
Victor and Victoria make their way to the woods after the rehearsal, where Victor practices his wedding vows. He places the wedding ring on the branch of a tree, unaware that it's actually a not-so-human hand.
I promise to love you. Will you marry me?
Victor lifts the hand off the branch, revealing a young woman, who is none other than the legendary corpse bride.
Why, yes. I will.
The scene shows Victor walking in a foggy wood.
What am I doing here? I've been walking around these woods looking for something. But what?
Suddenly, a loud rustling noise is heard. Victor stops and looks around. He sees a branch swaying in the wind.
Is that a branch?
He cautiously steps closer and notices that the branch is almost too perfectly shaped to be a normal branch.
How odd.
Suddenly, Victor hears a faint laugh and jumps back. As he looks closer, he sees a ghostly figure next to the branch. Suddenly the figure moves closer and Victor can see that it is a woman.
Hello, Victor. I'm Emily, the deceased bride you've been searching for.
Victor stares in shock.
But, how are you here?
Come with me to the land of the dead.
Emily grabs Victor's hand and takes him to a bright and vibrant underworld. There, Victor learns Emily's tragic story, how she was killed on the night of her elopement.
What a horrible fate.
It's all right. I'm no longer afraid. Now, Victor, let's get married.
Victor and Emily share a smile as they embrace. Suddenly they're surrounded in a cloud of flowers and music. The scene fades out.
Exterior of a small, white cottage. We see Victor, a young man, pacing around nervously. I have to get back to Victoria. But how? We see Victor and Emily, a young woman, both standing before Elder Goodneck, a wise, old man, who is seated in his chair.
So, you want to be reunited with Victoria?
Yes. Please, I need your help.
Very well. I'll let you and Emily travel temporarily to the land of the living.
You will?
On the pretext that Emily meet Victor's parents.
We see Victor and Emily standing outside the house. Well, here we are. We see Victor and Emily walking inside. I need to talk to my parents. It might be confusing for you, but we see Victor rushing out of the house. Emily is standing by, watching him go. Thank you, Emily. We see Emily, alone in the living room, feeling betrayed and angry.
He betrayed me. He shouldn't have done this.
We see Victor running towards Victoria's house, with Emily following close behind him. Emily, wait.
No. You must go back to the land of the dead. Now.
We see Victor and Emily standing in front of Victoria, who is surprised to see them. I came here to tell you that I love you. We see Emily dragging Victor back to the land of the dead.
Come on, Victor. Let's go.
Into a bedroom with Emily in it, looking despondent and alone. She is sitting on the bed, looking at photo albums. Emily had been betrayed by Victor. He had been lying to her, and she was devastated by this news. Cut to a scene of Emily wandering through her backyard, her mind at work. Cut back to Emily in her bedroom, still looking at the photos. But as time passed, Emily began to realize that maybe Victor and Victoria belonged together. Cut to a scene of Emily and Victor in her living room, talking.
Emily, I know I did wrong, and I'm sorry.
It's okay, Victor. I understand why you did it.
She smiles at him warmly, and then hugs him. So Emily forgave Victor and accepted that maybe they just weren't meant to be. Cut to a montage of Emily, Victor, and Victoria spending time together. Cut back to Emily alone in her bedroom. A softer expression on her face, one of acceptance and understanding. Emily had come to terms with the situation, and was ready to move on.
With a wide shot of an ethereal landscape, Victor is alone, walking through an endless void of clouds and light. Suddenly, he is joined by Victor's dead coachman.
Victor, my boy, I have something important to tell you.
Victor, taken aback, looks around uncertainly.
You died 3 weeks ago, in the accident.
Victor's coachman nods.
Yes, he did. But if we come back from the other side to tell you about what's happening back in the land of the living.
Victor looks hopeful.
What is it?
Your former love, Victoria, is to be married to Lord Barkis on the Moorhof.
Victor's face falls. He quickly composes himself, though, and begins to make a plan.
I cannot allow such a thing. If I am to make things right, I must take my own life so that I may properly wed Emily.
Victor's coachman nods solemnly, understanding his sentiment. We open with a wide shot of the church. We then cut to a wide shot of the dead entering the church. At first, the living are terrified, but soon they recognize the dead as departed relatives and loved ones. We then cut to a close-up of Victor and Emily as they exchange their vows. As they do, the dead look on in approval. We then cut to a wide shot of the church as Victor and Emily are announced as man and wife.
Victoria hurries into the church, searching for her beloved Victor. She spots him across from her, seemingly about to drink something out of a flask.
No, Victoria, don't.
Victoria looks around and finds Emily, Victor's fiancée, approaching him from behind. Emily looks alarmed.
Victor, don't drink that.
Victoria steps closer and notices what's in Victor's hands.
Victor, it's poison.
Victor looks back in shock. Recognition and joy take over his face as he drops the flask and runs to Victoria. He wraps her in a tight embrace.
Victoria.
Victoria's eyes fill with tears as she holds on to Number. Just as the two reunited lovers pull away from each other, a low growl interrupts the reunion. Victoria turns and notices Lord Barkis standing nearby.
Victoria, you are now my wife.
Victoria's eyes fill with terror. Victor steps forward, protectively in front of her as Lord Barkis takes out a sword and threatens to kill him.
No.
Suddenly, Emily rushes towards Lord Barkis, pushing him away from Victor and taking the sword's blow instead. Emily groans in pain, but still manages to look up at Lord Barkis with terror and recognition.
You.
Victoria and Victor exchange looks of shock as Emily painfully holds up a finger accusingly.
You killed my former fiancée out of greed and planned to do the same to Victoria for her dowry.
Lord Barkis hesitates for a moment and then reluctantly leaves. He pauses at the exit and raises a glass, mock toasting to Emily.
Your time for justice is coming.
Without waiting for a response, he drinks the poison out of yearning and drops the glass. His muffled screams can be heard coming from underground as dead spirits gleefully drag him to his demise. The marvelous trio stand in shock and awe, silently mourning the fallen Emily. The majestic castle is surrounded by lush fields and bright blue skies. The room is decorated with tapestries and flowing drapes, and is full of dignitaries and wedding guests. At the center of the room is Victor, standing in a bright white tuxedo, about to be married. Emily is at his side, looking at him with love in her eyes.
Victor, I love you, more than I can say. But I can no longer keep you to your vow.
Victor looks at her in confusion.
What are you saying?
She smiles.
I am setting you free.
The guests look at each other in confusion.
My love for you will never cease, but I must release you from this.
She reaches out and touches his cheek.
But Emily.
As she removes her hand, Victor stares in amazement. For in her place is a swarm of butterflies, fluttering around the room. The guests gasp in wonder. The butterflies fly out of the window, over the fields, and into the sky.
Practicing his wedding vows aloud.
With this hand I will cut your.
Victor stops halfway and looks surprised. The dynamics of his hands on his chest, as if he is cupping his breasts, and looks embarrassed.
Oh goodness, no.
Victor laughs nervously, embarrassed at his mistake.
I mean, with this hand I will love and honor you.
A dark forest at night. A full moon hangs over the trees, silhouetting them against its light. Cut to, end. Room in the haunted house. Night Victor and Corpse Bride are inside the room.
I don't know what to do. I can't marry you because I'm alive and you're dead.
I don't want you to sacrifice your life, but it may be the only way for us to be together.
No, it's too much.
I know it's a difficult decision, but if you love me, you must make the ultimate sacrifice and take your own life if you want us to be together.
Victor looks up at the Corpse Bride, his expression pained. He takes a deep breath before nodding.
All right, I'll do it.
Corpse Bride looks pleased, but sad. She kisses Victor.
I love you. It begins with Victor practicing his marriage vows near a graveyard. A few black birds can be seen in the trees overhead.
Sure, I'm gonna mess it up, but at least I'll try my best.
Suddenly the ground begins to shake and a single arm thrusts out of the ground, grabbing a hold of Victor's arm.
Ah.
Victor pulls away, yet the arm remains attached to his arm.
What the?
The figure of a person starts to rise out of the ground.
Oh no.
Victor begins to run away and trips, hitting his head. Emily, the risen figure, picks up the arm and runs after Victor. Victor, disoriented, continues to try to run away from her, but ends up running twice into the same tree, knocking himself out. Are you okay? The camera pans out to a long shot, showing Emily standing over Victor, with the arm in hand.
We see a small theater with a stage, a few audience members, and a spotlight up front.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Megan, the master impersonator,
The audience applauds as Maggot takes the stage. He is dressed in a 1940s style suit and hat and looks strikingly like Peter Law.
Thank you, thank you.
Maggot takes his place in the spotlight and holds up a photo of Peter Law.
For my next act, I'd like to honor the great actor Peter Lorre by recreating one of his most iconic performances.
The audience cheers and applauds as Maggot takes a dramatic pause.
Casablanca.
The audience goes silent as Maggot begins to imitate Law's famous voice, mannerisms, and facial expressions.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she had to walk into mine.
The audience erupts in applause as Maggot delivers the iconic line.
Thank you.
Maggot bows graciously and takes his leave of the stage.
Shot of a piano being played, the camera slowly pans to the player, revealing Victor. He is deeply engrossed in playing the piano. Meet Victor, a talented pianist who has been playing since the age of 6. His love for music is evident in the way he plays each note with passion and dedication. Victor finishes playing the piece and leans back, looking satisfied. Suddenly, the camera zooms in on the piano, focusing on a small nameplate that reads Harryhausen. Did you see that? As Victor leans back, the nameplate on the piano reads Harryhausen. You might be wondering, what's the significance of this nameplate? Cut to Victor as he turns to face the camera.
Ah, that's a reference to Ray Harryhausen, the legendary stop-motion animator. He was one of my biggest inspirations growing up.
Cut to flashback of young Victor watching Harryhausen's movies and being amazed by the visuals. Ray Harryhausen is known as the father of stop-motion animation in the film industry. He brought to life some of the most iconic creatures in movies like Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans and The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Cut back to present time, Victor is now standing next to the piano.
His attention to detail and dedication to his craft has always inspired me. The way he made the creatures come alive on screen was truly magical.
Cut to a montage of Harryhausen's work, showing his intricate stop-motion animation techniques. Harryhausen's work was a labor of love, taking months and even years to complete. He brought a touch of realism to the fictional creatures he created, making them appear lifelike on screen. Cut back to Victor.
I've always been fascinated by the way he used stop-motion animation to bring fantasy to life, and that's what I hope to capture in my own way, through my piano playing.
Cut to a shot of Victor playing the piano with the camera zooming in on his hands as he plays. Victor is a true fan of Harryhausen and his work. In fact, he plans on dedicating a whole performance to him in the near future. Cut back to Victor.
I want to pay tribute to the man who inspired me to follow my passion and continue to push the boundaries of creativity.
Closing shot of Victor playing the piano, with the nameplate of Harryhausen in focus. So, the next time you see Victor playing the piano, remember the great Ray Harryhausen, his skills as an animator and his legacy which continues to inspire many, including Victor. Closing shot of Victor smiling as he continues to play the piano.
Opening shot of a stage with a flashy, retro-looking skeleton band playing energetic jazz music. The camera zooms in to focus on the lead singer, Mr. Bonajangles, who is singing and dancing in the center of the stage.
Meet Mr. Bonajangles and his skeleton band, the undead sensation taking the music world by storm. But did you know that their unique style and performance are partly inspired by a classic cartoon and legendary musicians?
Cut to black and white footage of the cartoon The Skeleton Dance, 1929, playing in the background.
It all started with the iconic and groundbreaking animated short film called The Skeleton Dance released in 1929. This cartoon sparked the imagination of a young musician, who later became known as Mr. Bonajangles.
Cut to a young Mr. Bonajangles watching the cartoon with fascination.
When I først satte te-skeleton dance, I vask med smag af sild. I lode av te-skeletons mode to te-hytm og te-musik, and it knew that to have you until todo. It was te-beat of ny skeleton band.
Cut to the skeleton band playing on the stage again.
But it's not just the cartoon that has influenced Mr. Bonajangles and his band. They also drew inspiration from a certain musical legend, Cab Calloway.
Cut to footage of Cab Calloway and his band performing in a Betty Boop cartoon.
Cab Calloway and his band were animated in rotoscope form in several Betty Boop cartoons, and their performances were dynamic and captivating.
Cut back to the stage, focusing on the band's pianist.
Take a closer look at the piano player's shades. resembling those of the legendary Ray Charles, and his moves, inspired by the mannerisms of the great musician.
Cut to footage of Ray Charles performing.
And of course, we can't forget the man himself, Mr. Bojangles. His character is based on the legendary dancer Bill Robinson, known as Mr. Bojangles, who was famous for his smooth and graceful tap dancing.
Cut to a picture of Bill Robinson, then back to Mr. Bojangles dancing on stage.
From his signature top hat to his elegant dance moves, Mr. Bojangles pays tribute to the legendary performer.
Cut to Mr. Bojangles talking to the camera.
Jeg LOECSAY, næver forud i årets. Tegeton skeleton anti-slamassing musetchancer havde hu influencer nu band, an apostrof 502 p-humage 2 thefrum performances.
Cut back to the band playing on stage, with the audience cheering and clapping.
And there you have it, the story behind Mr. Bojangles and his skeleton band. A fusion of classic cartoon and legendary musicians, creating a unique and unforgettable experience for all of us.
Closing shot of the band taking a bow as the audience continues to cheer.
So, next time you see Mr. Bojangles and his band perform, remember the inspiration behind their sensational music and dance moves. A tribute to the past, with a new and exciting twist. This is your host, signing off. See you next time.
End screen with the band's logo and social media handles.
Shot of a beautifully decorated room with a large tufted chair in the center. Victoria, the bride, walks into the room and looks at the chair with a puzzled expression on her face.
That chair looks familiar. Where have I seen it before?
Victoria walks towards the chair and runs her fingers along the tufted backrest. Suddenly, she gasps as if she has just realized something.
I remember now. This tufted chair back reminds me of a skull face. It's quite eerie, especially since I'm getting married today.
Cut to flashback scene of Victoria's childhood bedroom where she is looking at a book about ancient rituals.
When I was a little girl, I was fascinated by ancient rituals and symbols. I remember reading about how some cultures believed that a chair with a high back resembling a skull would bring good fortune and ward off evil spirits.
Cut back to present day with Victoria standing in front of the chair.
I never thought I would come across a chair like that in real life. It's quite uncanny, isn't it?
Victoria sits down on the chair and looks around the room, taking in all the wedding decorations.
But you know what? Despite its eerie resemblance, I find this chair strangely comforting. It's like a reminder that no matter what challenges may come, I have the strength and courage to overcome them.
Cut to a close-up of the tufted backrest, with the sunlight streaming through the window and casting a shadow that accentuates the skull face.
And now, as I prepare for my wedding day, this chair serves as a reminder that I am ready to embark on a new journey with my partner, no matter what obstacles we may face.
Cut back to present day with Victoria getting up from the chair and taking one last look at it before walking out of the room.
I guess it's time for me to go and start my new life. But I will always remember this tufted chair back and the symbolism it holds for me.
Closing shots of the tufted chair, with the words from ancient rituals to modern weddings, some symbols never lose their meaning. Appearing on the screen.
The tufted chair back in Victoria's room may seem like a simple piece of furniture, but its significance is far greater. It serves as a reminder of the strength, courage, and love that will guide her on her new journey. What symbols hold meaning for you? Thank you for watching. Scene opens to Bojangles sitting on a chair, with a dimly lit room in the background. He is tapping his cane on the floor, with a mysterious smile on his face. The camera zooms in on him.
I see you right still here. Well, scene, let me continue with the Emily's story. No, Roger Avassi. Emily's Kro.
As Bojangles continues with the story, a shadow appears on the wall behind him. It looks like a figure, with a top hat and a coat on. The shadow starts to move, mimicking Bojangles' movements.
HMM, uhastigt. I et sensord det agro-mas det to med igen apparence.
The shadow stops moving and stands still.
You see, my friends, it was an apostrof til at udstemme lyver havde lov indens historie. Så hvad altså til mand, Lord Barkis.
The camera zooms in on the shadow, revealing a profile that looks exactly like Lord Barkis.
Lord Marquis was arealdyr en handsome mand, was sweat Emily of Herfeld. He promised her low and happiness, and she, in return, gave him her head. But little did she know that the charming man had accessory. He was after her family's fortune and planned to get rid of her so he had it in his hands.
The shadow moves to the side, revealing another shadow of Emily being stabbed.
And just ligget der, til gruppen tog ned indså vi leg.
The shadow of the groom disappears, and Bonajangles gets up from his chair.
But Emil Vassen på stof til gå ind to let hæbget af LED til så returnerede til kubsebride, seeking revingen til Lothavas takken from her.
The camera zooms out to show Bonajangles standing in front of a large painting of Emily, with her hand reaching out to the viewer.
And der, ny friends, is til historier ved menuen her to proms. But as to hos ended up with, well, that's a story for another team.
The camera fades to black as Bonajangles walks back to his chair, tapping his cane on the floor.
But man bærer, hængsaren på stof til at løse hat sisem, especially when it comes to law. Until next team, ny friends.
Music starts to play as the screen fades to black, ending the video.
Opening shot of a dark and eerie forest.
In the magical land of the dead, there lived a beautiful but lonely corpse bride. But did you know that in the original script draft of the movie, the corpse bride was given a different name?
Cut to a sepia-toned flashback.
Yes, her name was Emily Merrimack.
Cut back to present time.
Emily Merrimack, a name that was later changed to Emily Everglot in the final movie. But why was this change made?
Cut to Nell Van Dort, sitting on a chair in front of a fireplace.
Allow me to shed some light on this matter. You see, the Merrimackers were a very good family in the land of the living. Emily's grandfather was even an old.
Cut to an old portrait of a distinguished-looking man.
Emily was major to marry Lord Marquis Smith, a rich and powerful man, but to her is my.
Cut back to Nell Van Dort.
But I would have it. Emily so light up a tragic turn and she was left her broken.
Cut to Emily, looking sad and alone.
She was never careful, hoping to find some solace in the aspects where little did she know that where she would meet her true love, Victor Van Zol.
Cut to Victor and Emily dancing in the forest.
And thus began the beat at the close bride.
Cut back to Nell Van Dort.
However, during the production of the movie, the decision was made to change Emily's last night to Everglot to establish a connection between her and the living family she long for.
Cut to a scene of Victor and Emily's wedding.
In the end, Emily so loved candles light and death, and her name became synonymous with everlasting love.
Cut back to Nell Van Dort.
And that, my friend, is the story of how Emily Merrimack became the close bride, Emily Everglot.
Closing shot of Emily and Victor dancing in the moonlight.
And so, we conclude this little piece of trivia about the beloved movie, Corpse Bride. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, farewell.
Opening shot of a dark and eerie cemetery, with a full moon casting a haunting glow. The camera zooms in on a lonely grave with a headstone that reads Scraps, beloved dog. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake and dust flies out as a skeleton dog emerges from the grave.
In the world of Tim Burton, death is not necessarily the end. In fact, it's just the beginning of a wild and twisted adventure.
Cut to a flashback of a young boy, Victor, playing with his dog Scraps in a beautiful garden. They are running and playing together, their bond evident in every move they make. The camera zooms in on a photo of the two together.
Meet Victor, a young boy who had a special connection with his loyal dog, Scraps, but fate had other plans for them.
Cut back to present day, where the skeleton dog, Scraps, is now standing next to the headstone.
After Scraps' untimely death, Victor was heartbroken, but little did he know that their story was far from over.
Victor appears in the cemetery, looking dejected and lost. He takes a seat in front of the headstone, and aware of the eerie presence behind him.
Hello, Victor.
Victor turns around, startled to see his deceased dog now as a skeleton.
SC Scraps?
It's me, Buddy. But don't be scared, I'm still the same old Scraps you know I'm love.
Victor hesitantly approaches Scraps, not sure if he is dreaming or if this is really happening.
How is this possible?
Tim Burton's world is full of wonders and mysterious, my friend. And it seems like we have been given a second chance to be together again.
Scraps jumps around playfully, with Victor joining in like old times.
In Tim Burton's world, even death can't keep loved ones apart, and with a little bit of magic and imagination, anything is possible.
As Victor and Scraps continue to play, the camera zooms out to reveal a beautiful garden with all kinds of skeleton animals and creatures happily playing together. The sun starts to shine and the once gloomy cemetery is now filled with vibrant colors and joy.
This is our new home, Victor. Welcome to the other side.
As the scene fades to black, the words in Tim Burton's world, "Love transcends death," appear on the screen.
Tim Burton's twisted yet heartwarming tale shows us that even in the afterlife, the bonds we share with our loved ones live on forever.
And with a final shot of Victor and Scraps walking off into the sunset, with the words "The End" appearing on the screen.
Opening shot of a lush, enchanted forest. Victor, dressed in his wedding attire, is walking through the woods towards a clearing.
As we reach the climax of Tim Burton's haunting and whimsical tale, we find ourselves in the mysterious and magical woods, where Victor has finally found his true love, the corpse bride.
Camera follows Victor as he approaches the corpse bride, who is waiting for him in a clearing. She is dressed in a tattered wedding gown, and her appearance is both beautiful and eerie.
My dearest Emily, all my life I have searched for someone like you. Someone who understands my quirks, my fears, and my dreams. I never imagined that I would find you, a beautiful, kind, and loving soul, in this unconventional way.
Victor reaches for his pocket and takes out a small wooden box. He opens it, revealing 2 rings, one for him, and one for Emily.
With this ring, I pledge my eternal love and devotion to you, my darling bride.
He smiles at her, but suddenly notices something strange. The ring he placed on Emily's hand has now moved to her pointer finger.
That's not right.
Emily laughs, revealing her sharp teeth.
My dear, it's just a silly tradition. We are already bound together in death. The placement of a ring means nothing to us.
You always know how to put me at ease, my love.
Emily takes Victor's hand and looks at the ring he is wearing.
You know, you put my ring on the wrong finger as well.
Victor looks at his own hand, and sure enough, the ring he placed on Emily's hand has now moved to his ring finger.
I guess we were meant to have our rings on the wrong fingers.
Emily smiles at him, and they both share a tender moment. Suddenly, the hauntingly beautiful melody of Tears to Shed begins playing in the background.
You may now kiss the bride.
Victor leans in, and as they share their first kiss as a married couple, the camera zooms in on their intertwined hands, revealing that the rings have now moved to their appropriate fingers.
And just like that, in a magical moment, Victor and Emily are truly married, united together in both life and death. Their love stands the test of time and surpasses all boundaries.
Closing shot of Victor and Emily walking hand in hand, disappearing into the misty woods, leaving behind a trail of falling leaves and flower petals.
And so, our story ends with a happily ever after for our dear Victor and his corpse bride. But remember, in the land of the living and the dead, love knows no bounds.
Roll credits.
Shot of a dimly room with a safe in the center. A mysterious woman, now the line Everglot, approaches the safe and begins to enter the combination. As she opens the safe, a glint of gold catches the light and the camera zooms in on her hand, revealing a gold wedding ring.
In the film Corpse Bride, there is a plot twist that often goes unnoticed by viewers. During the song According to Plan, 2 female characters, Modeline Everglot and Nell Van Dort, seem to magically lose and regain their wedding rings. Let's take a closer look at this intriguing detail.
Cut to Modeline closing the safe and walking away, but in the next shot, the wedding ring is missing from her finger.
The first instance is during the scene where Modeline opens the safe in order to retrieve a valuable pearl necklace. As she closes the safe and turns to leave, the gold wedding ring is noticeably missing from her finger.
Cut to Nell Van Dort, who is also wearing a wedding ring in one shot, but in the next shot, the ring is no longer there.
Later on, during the song According to Plan, Nell Van Dort also seems to experience the same strange phenomenon. In one shot, she is wearing her wedding ring, but in the next, it has vanished.
Cut to Nell and her husband, Victor, arguing with Maudeline and her husband, Finnes, in the cemetery where they are preparing for their arranged marriage.
This is according to plan.
And this plan will make us rich.
So, what could be the reason for this strange disappearing and reappearing act? Some may argue that it is simply a continuity error. But others believe that it could hold a deeper, symbolic meaning.
Cut to a close-up of Maudeline's face as she expresses her true feelings about the arranged marriage.
Maudeline's reluctance to marry a stranger could be reflected in her sudden loss of the wedding ring. It symbolizes her fear of losing her individuality and being trapped in a loveless marriage.
Cut to Nell, who becomes increasingly overwhelmed and conflicted by the arranged marriage in the song According to Plan.
I pretend that I in love.
In Nell's case, the disappearing ring could represent her inner turmoil and confusion. As she struggles with the pressure to follow the plan set out for her, her wedding ring symbolizes her commitment to this marriage, but its sudden absence reflects her doubts and uncertainty.
Cut to the climax of the song, where Nell and Maudeline's true love, crash the wedding.
It is only when Nell and Maudeline are able to break free from their predetermined paths and follow their hearts that their wedding rings reappear. They have found their true love and can now happily wear their rings once again.
Cut to Nell and Youngleys sharing a kiss as their wedding rings sparkle in the light.
So, the next time you watch Corpse Bride, keep an eye out for these small but significant details. The disappearing and reappearing wedding rings in According to Plan are not just mere mistakes, but symbolic clues that add depth to the story.
Closing shot of Maudeline and Nell, now happily married to their true loves, and proudly wearing their wedding rings.
And that, my friends, is the magic of storytelling.
Fade to black. End of video.
Camera opens to a close-up of Victor sitting in a dimly lit room. He is flipping through a notebook, occasionally pausing to read notes. He looks anxious and a little nervous. The camera slowly zooms out to show that he is sitting at a small table with a lit candle in front of him.
Okay, deep breaths. You can do this, Victor. Just read the notes and everything will be fine.
As he continues to practice his vows, he tries to pick up a matchbox from the table, but his hands are shaking so much that he ends up dropping it. He sighs and rubs his temples in frustration. Camera pans to show Victoria standing next to him. She is also holding an unlit candle and she looks concerned.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just a little nervous. I can't seem to focus.
Don't worry, you'll do great. Just take your time.
Victor nods and takes a deep breath before continuing with his vows. He reaches for the matchbox again, but this time he accidentally knocks over his candle, causing it to go out.
Oh no, now the candle is out.
He looks around the room for something to relight the candle, but all he finds is a small stick on the table. He tries to use it as a makeshift match, but it doesn't work. Camera shows Victoria standing next to him, trying not to laugh.
Maybe we should take a break and try again later.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
As Victor starts to pack up his things, the camera zooms in on Victoria's hand. We see that the unlit candle she was holding was now mysteriously lit. She slowly brings it closer to Victor's candle and lights it. Camera shows Victor's face as he looks at the lit candle in amazement.
How did you do that?
I didn't do anything. The candle just lit itself.
Camera zooms out to show both of them looking at the lit candles.
Looks like we have a little bit of magic on our side.
They both smile and lock eyes, enjoying the moment.
Thank you.
Victoria smiles back and nods before both of them continue with their practice. Camera shows a time lapse of the sun setting, indicating that they have been practicing for a while.
Well, I think we've practiced enough for today. Let's call it a night.
Agreed.
They both blow out their candles and start to clean up. Camera pans out to show the room in complete darkness with the faint sound of crickets chirping in the background.
Let's see what other tricks Victoria has up her sleeve on her wedding day.
Camera fades to black.
Shot of a dark, eerie church with the sound of clanging swords echoing through the halls. Zoom into a close-up of Victor and Barkis Bittern, standing face to face, with swords drawn.
As the wedding ceremony took a dark turn, the once peaceful church turned into a battleground between two rivals. Victor and Barkis Bittern, both fighting for the love of beautiful Emily, were now locked in a fierce sword fight.
Cut to a shot of Emily, dressed in her wedding gown, looking on with fear and concern. She grabs her chest as she sees the two men fight.
Emily, the love of both their lives, could only watch in distress as the two men fought with all their might.
Cut back to Victor and Barkus, who exchange intense blows with their swords. Barkus, who is known for his devious ways, begins to taunt Victor.
Give up, Victor. Emily will soon be mine and there's nothing you can do about it.
I will not let you win, Barkus. Emily deserves better than you.
Narrator's voice becomes intense as the two continue to fight.
As the duel intensified, Victor and Barkus were both determined to win, but in the heat of the moment, Victor's rage takes over and he grabs a nearby fork, using it as a weapon.
Barkus is caught off guard as Victor slashes him across the chest, leaving a visible scratch. Barkus steps back gasping in pain.
Victor's desperate move left a deep scratch on Barkus' chest. The intensity of the fight grew as both men struggled to gain the upper hand.
Cut to a shot of Emily, relieved that Victor had managed to injure Barkus. However, her joy is short-lived as she notices something peculiar in the next shot.
But as the camera pans back to a close-up of Barkus, Emily, and the audience, the scratch on Barkus' chest is gone.
Cut back to Victor and Barkus, still in the midst of their duel. The two men continue to fight, but the scratch is nowhere to be seen.
Was it just a continuity error or was there something more sinister at play? As the fight continues, the scratch seems to have mysteriously disappeared.
Cut to a confused Emily, trying to make sense of what she just saw.
Emily is confused and so are we. Did the scratch really disappear or is it just a trick of the light?
The sword fight finally comes to an end as Victor lands the final blow, knocking Barkus to the ground. Barkus lays motionless as Victor looks down at him, panting.
In the end, Victor emerged victorious and won the heart of Emily, but the mysterious disappearance of Barkus' scratch will forever remain a puzzle to be solved.
Final shot of Victor and Emily, happily embracing each other as the church bells ring in the background.
And as the wedding ceremony resumes, the scratch may be gone, but the memory of this intense duel will always remain in the minds of all who witnessed it.
Shot of Victor and Victoria sitting on a bench in a park, having a conversation.
So, Victoria, it's nice to finally meet you.
Yes, it is. I'm glad we could finally sit down and get to know each other.
Cut to a close-up of Victor's tie, which is out of his jacket and looking wrinkled.
As Victor nervously fiddles with his tie, his mind is racing with thoughts about this new person he's just met.
Cut to a wide shot of Victor and Victoria.
I'm sorry, my tie is a mess. I didn't have enough time to fix it before meeting you.
Cut to a close-up of Victoria's hand gently touching Victor's arm.
It's okay, Victor. You don't have to be perfect. I like you just the way you are.
Cut back to a close-up of Victor's tie, now neatly tucked in and wrinkle-free.
As Victoria's calming words sink in, Victor's nervous energy starts to dissipate.
Cut back to the wide shot of Victor and Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria. You always know just what to say to make me feel better.
That's because I truly care about you, Victor.
Cut to a medium shot of the two, with Victor's hand now resting on Victoria's.
As their connection grows stronger, Victor's attention shifts from his tie to the person sitting next to him.
Cut to a close-up of Victor and Victoria's hands intertwined.
The physical state of his tie becomes inconsequential as the bond between them becomes tighter.
Cut to a close-up of Victor's relaxed and smiling face.
In this moment, Victor realizes that the perfect tie or the absence of wrinkles doesn't matter. It's the genuine connection he has with Victoria that truly counts.
Cut back to the wide shot of Victor and Victoria, now with their arms around each other.
From strangers to friends, and now possibly something more, Victor and Victoria's story shows that sometimes, imperfections can lead to perfect moments.
Closing shot of Victor and Victoria walking away together, with Victor's tie slightly out of place but both of them looking happy.
As they walk towards an uncertain but exciting future, Victor's tie may not be perfect, but his heart is certainly in the right place. And as for the wrinkles, they will just be a reminder of the journey they took to find each other.
Music plays.
Welcome back to our analysis of Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. In this scene, we see the skeleton with a hat singing and dancing with the corpse bride at around 22 minutes into the movie. But as he reaches towards her dress, something peculiar happens.
Scene cuts to the skeleton singing and dancing with the corpse bride.
TSA Trolovs sikkerhedsprise, museet snot, I V-farven ny træsurenjødes.
As the skeleton sings and twirls with the corpse bride, he reaches out and grabs the left side of her wedding dress. But as the camera zooms in, we see that he's actually holding the red side of the dress. How could this be?
Scene zooms in on the skeleton holding the right side of the dress.
Well, this may seem like a continuity error, but it actually has a deeper meaning. You see, the skeleton represents the living world, while the corpse bride represents the deceased.
Which hand can lift your spirits, but which hand can set you free?
By holding the red side of the dress, the skeleton is actually showing his desire to set the corpse bride free from the underworld and bring her back to the living world. He wants to be the one to lift her spirits and make her happy.
Scene cuts to the last verse of the song.
Myg der, jeg på strofen LB-sagen apteset antik-røjving, byder ting winti målsoffin.
It's also interesting to note that the skeleton is wearing a top hat, a symbol of wealth and power. This is a contrast to the corpse bride's tattered wedding dress, symbolizing her impoverished and tragic past.
Scene shows the skeleton bowing to the corpse bride.
But despite their differences, the skeleton and the corpse bride are united in their love for each other. They are both outcasts and misfits in their respective worlds, and they've found solace and acceptance in each other.
Scene fades to black.
This scene may seem like a simple romantic moment, but upon closer analysis, we can see the deeper meaning behind it. It's a powerful testament to the idea that love knows no boundaries, not even death.
Outro music plays.
And that's all for this segment of our analysis. Stay tuned as we continue to unravel the hidden messages and symbolism in Tim Burton's Corpse Bride.
End screen with title and credits appears.
Opening shot of Emily coming down the stairs after arguing with Victor. She looks frustrated and upset. She takes a deep breath and walks to the door. As she opens it, a close-up shot reveals her empty hands.
At around 39 minutes into the movie, we see Emily leaving her house after a heated argument with her fiancé Victor, but something seems different about her. She seems to have left something behind.
Cut to Emily walking down the street, her face still showing signs of distress. She stops in front of a florist shop and looks at the flower arrangements displayed outside.
Emily seems lost in thought as she stands in front of a florist shop. The significance of this moment only becomes clear when we see her again.
Cut to Emily walking out of the same shop, this time carrying a beautiful wedding bouquet.
When we see Emily again, she's carrying a wedding bouquet. This sudden shift in emotion and the presence of a wedding bouquet leads us to question what happened in those few moments inside the florist shop.
Cut to a flashback of Emily and Victor having a conversation.
I don't understand why you're so upset, Emily. I just want everything to be perfect for our wedding day.
But it doesn't feel like our wedding at all. You've made all the decisions without even asking my opinion. It's supposed to be our day, not just yours.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize. What can I do to make it up to you?
Cut back to Emily standing outside the florist shop.
In that moment, Emily realizes that she wants to take control of her own wedding, to make it truly special and meaningful to her. So, she makes a bold decision.
Cut to Emily picking out her own flowers and arranging them in the bouquet herself.
Emily decides to make her own wedding bouquet, a symbol of her taking charge of her own happiness.
Cut to Emily walking down the aisle, confidently carrying her self-made bouquet.
And as she walks down the aisle, with her bouquet in hand, she radiates with confidence and happiness, knowing that she made this moment truly hers.
Closing shot of Emily and Victor exchanging vows, with Emily proudly holding her bouquet.
Sometimes, a seemingly simple act like making a bouquet can hold so much meaning and significance. It's a symbol of taking control and creating your own happiness. And in the end, that's all that matters.
Fade to black.
Open on a scene of intense fighting between Barkis and Victor. They are both armed with swords and are locked in a sword fight. The background is a dimly lit room with old furniture, giving the scene a vintage feel. The sound of clashing swords and grunting can be heard.
As the brawl between Barkis and Victor escalates, the two enemies are now in a heated sword fight, both determined to come out as the victor.
The camera zooms in on Victor's face as he strategizes his next move. Suddenly, Barkis makes a swift and powerful strike towards Victor, who responds by blocking the attack with a fork he finds nearby. The sharp end of the sword is now edged between the tines of the fork.
But hold on, did Victor just use a fork to block Barkis' sword? How is that even possible?
The camera zooms out to show the audience the unique situation and the two men are in. The audience might also have a confused expression on their faces.
Let's take a closer look at that moment. Initially, the sword was positioned to the right of the three prongs of the fork. However, when the shot switches back to Victor, the sword has somehow moved between the middle and right prongs.
As the camera zooms in on the fork, the audience can clearly see the sword's movement.
How did this happen? Well, there are a couple of possibilities.
Cut to a close-up of Victor's face as he speaks to Barkis.
You underestimate the power of this fork, Barkis. It's not just an ordinary utensil.
One explanation could be that the fork itself has some sort of powers that help it move and adjust accordingly. But, let's not forget, Victor is a skilled swordsman who might have moved the fork with his wrist, causing the sword to shift positions.
Cut to a close-up of Barkis' menacing face as he responds to Victor's statement.
Ha! Don't make me laugh, Victor. You're just making excuses for your sloppy defense.
Another possibility is that Barkis, who is an equally skilled swordsman, might have moved the sword as he tried to overpower Victor.
The camera zooms out to show the two men still locked in the sword fight.
Or, maybe, it was the force of their sword fight that caused the sword to move between the prongs.
The camera pans to show the intense fighting between the two men.
Regardless of how it happened, one thing is for sure, this fight is far from over.
The camera zooms in on the fork and the sword still locked in a standoff. Suddenly, the sword slides and falls to the ground, breaking the tension.
And with that, a temporary truce is formed. But how long will it last? Only time will tell.
The camera zooms out to show Victor and Barkis staring at each other, both exhausted from the fight.
This isn't over, Barkis.
Oh, I assure you, it's far from over.
The camera slowly fades to black as the audience is left wondering what will happen next.
Join us next time to see how this intense sword fight ends. Will Victor be able to defeat Barkis? Or will Barkis come out as the victor? Tune in to find out.
And with the movie title and release date.
Scene opens with Victor standing in the middle of a beautiful forest, surrounded by trees and the sounds of nature. He takes a deep breath and looks down at his hand, where a small velvet box containing a diamond ring lays open.
Okay, here we go. I can do this.
He takes out a sheet of paper and begins to read from it, as if rehearsing for a big moment. As he speaks, he imagines himself standing at the altar with his soon-to-be wife, Emily.
My dearest Emily, from the moment I met you, I knew there was something special about you. You captured my heart with your laughter, your kindness, and your unwavering support. And now, as I stand here, surrounded by the beauty of Mother Nature, I know in my heart that I want to spend the rest of my life with you.
As he speaks, Victor absent-mindedly picks up the ring and slides it onto what he thinks is a nearby branch. However, as he looks closer, he realizes that it's not a branch, but Emily's hand.
Oh my.
Before he can react, Emily grabs his hand and pulls him down to her level.
Hello there.
Victor looks up at her, confused. But before he can say anything, she pulls him into a passionate kiss. When they finally break apart, Victor notices something different. The ring is now on Emily's ring finger.
Magic.
They both laugh and Emily wraps her arms around his neck.
I think this ring belongs here anyway.
Emily's smile widens as she takes a closer look at the ring and nods in agreement.
Thank you.
For what?
For making me the happiest woman in the world.
They share another tender moment together before standing up and continuing their walk through the forest.
This is perfect. Just like you.
Emily looks at him, her eyes shining with love. They continue walking, hand in hand, as the forest fades into a bright white light.
Love can be unpredictable, but it's moments like these that make it all worth it. Never underestimate the power of love, for it can turn a simple rehearsal into a magical memory that will last a lifetime.
Scene opens with Victor and the bride sitting at a grand piano in a dark and eerie underworld.
As the sun sets on the mortal world, we find ourselves in the underworld, a place where the dead roam free. Victor and the bride have found themselves in this mysterious realm, playing a haunting duet on the piano.
Music starts playing in the background as the camera zooms in on Victor and the bride's hands playing the piano.
Their fingers move in perfect harmony, creating a beautiful melody that echoes throughout the underworld. But little do they know, their music is about to take a twisted turn.
The bride's hand suddenly pauses, as if it's stuck, and then breaks off from her wrist. The camera focuses on the detached hand as it starts crawling up Victor's arm.
The bride's hand, still dancing to the rhythm of the piano, makes its way towards Victor, a look of confusion and terror on his face.
What is happening?
The detached hand reaches Victor's shoulder and starts playing the keys on the piano with him. Victor's expression changes from fear to awe, as if he's being controlled by an invisible force.
It seems that even in death, the bride's love for music is still alive. Her hand, filled with a desire to make music, has taken control of Victor's body, making their duet even more enchanting.
The camera pans out to show the entire piano as both Victor and the detached hand play together, their fingers moving in perfect unison.
In this underworld, anything is possible. The dead have a voice and a desire to express themselves, just like the living.
The camera then zooms in on the bride's face, her eyes filled with longing as she watches her hand play the piano with Victor.
One can only wonder what other wonders and mysteries lie within this realm of the dead.
The piano duet comes to an end and the detached hand falls to the ground, lifeless. Victor and the bride sit there in silence, still in shock from what just happened.
As their journey in the underworld continues, one thing is for sure, the love and passion for music will never die, even in the afterlife.
Scene fades to black as the haunting melody of the piano continues to resonate throughout the underworld.
Opening shot of a Victorian-era town with dark, eerie vibes. The camera zooms in on a house decorated with cobwebs and skeletons. A voiceover begins.
Welcome to the town of the dead, where the living and the deceased coexist. It is a place filled with mysteries and secrets, and today we will unravel the story of a tragic bride, known only as the corpse bride.
Cut to a close-up shot of a gravestone with the name Emily engraved on it. The camera then moves upwards to reveal a ghostly figure standing beside it, the corpse bride.
Her name was Emily, a beautiful young woman who lived in the village and was about to marry the love of her life, Victor. But fate had something else in store for her.
Cut to a flashback scene of Emily walking hand in hand with Victor, both smiling and giggling.
Emily's happiness was short-lived as she fell victim to a fatal accident just before her wedding day.
Cut to another flashback scene, this time of Emily falling off a cliff and her lifeless body lying on the ground.
Her soul was trapped in the underworld, where she remained for years, waiting for her true love to join her. But Victor, unaware of her existence, moved on with his life and got engaged to another woman.
Cut to a scene of Victor wandering through the town, looking sad and lost. He stops in front of a poster advertising the corpse bride at a theater.
One day, while wandering through the town, Victor stumbled upon a theater showing a play about the corpse bride. Little did he know, it was about to change his life forever.
Cut to a scene from the play, where the audience can see Emily's character on stage, portrayed as a ghostly and elegant bride.
As the play progressed, Emily's spirit began to emerge from the stage, and she recognized Victor as her former fiancé.
Cut to a close-up shot of Emily's face as she says her first words.
Victor.
Voiceover continues as the camera zooms in on Victor's shocked and confused face.
Victor was stunned and couldn't believe what was happening. He was face to face with his dead fiancé.
Cut to a scene of Emily and Victor talking, as she reveals her tragic story.
I've waited so long for you, Victor. I thought you would never come for me.
Voiceover continues as the camera shows flashback scenes of Emily and Victor's happy moments together.
As Victor learned the truth about Emily, he couldn't help but feel guilty for moving on without her. In the end, he realized that his heart still belonged to her.
Cut to a scene of Emily and Victor standing on a cliff, as they prepare to enter the underworld.
Victor and Emily's love was so strong that it even conquered death. They were finally reunited in the afterlife, and Emily's soul found peace.
Cut to a final shot of Emily and Victor's spirits walking hand in hand in the town of the dead.
And so, the corpse bride, also known as Emily, finally found her true identity in love. A story that reminds us that true love knows no boundaries, not even death.
End with a fade to black and the sound of wedding bells ringing.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of the corpse bride. May she rest in peace, and her love story live on forever.
Closing credits roll with the song Tears to Shade from the movie Corpse Bride.